So it is good evening, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Jesse Mortensen. I'm the National Manager of Coach Development. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we meet on tonight. I also want to acknowledge the ongoing contribution and leadership First Nations people make each and every day in Australian sport. I'm coming to you tonight from Mangano in South Australia, and joining me tonight is National Integrity Manager Chris Cunningham and Director of High Performance Daniel Mangano. So Chris tonight is our keynote speaker for this evening. He's the controller of the agenda. He's the controller of all of our knowledge base. So I won't steal his thunder too much more, and I will hand us over to Chris to lead us through tonight's webinar.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for taking time out on a Wednesday evening to dial in. It is greatly appreciated. And what I'll do very quickly is I'm just going to share a presentation. Jesse will give me a nod when it comes up and he can see.
Yep.
There's a nod right now. So we're just going to do a bit of an integrity overview. We're not going to go into great detail, and I promise I won't take up too long as well. We'll probably try and get this done in half an hour. I don't want to take up any longer than that on a weeknight for people. I'd also like to acknowledge country. I'd like to, in the spirit of reconciliation, acknowledge the Eora people, the traditional custodians of country where I'm speaking from today, which is North Sydney. And their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We recognise the outstanding contribution Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders make to sport in Australia and celebrate the power of sport to promote reconciliation and reduce inequality. First thing on the agenda today is Dan Mangano, so I'll throw to him very briefly. He's going to give us an overview of HP32 and its importance, and it's linked to integrity. I will then provide an integrity recap of everything that's happened in the last 18 months. A fair bit happened, and you will be forgiven for forgetting what's happened or why. I'll then talk about the National Integrity Framework policy. What's the point of it? What policies are in existence, and how it's relevant to yourselves. I'll do a bit of an integrity definition and why integrity isn't so important to us here at AusTriathlon. I'm going to attempt to talk a little bit about the theory behind integrity measures that get implemented. They are not random. There is theory behind it, and I'll do my best to explain that briefly this evening. I'll talk about the integrity action plan that we're developing here at AusTriathlon. And I'll also just talk a little bit about integrity resistance and integrity fatigue at the end, because I think it is really important to understand that change is hard and new is also hard. We're under no illusions, so we want to make sure that we acknowledge that, and we're very understanding of our attempts to embed integrity here and what that means. But without further ado, I will throw over to Dan, if that's okay. Dan, you all good?
Yep, thanks, Chris. Apologies in advance. I've got 2 children supposed to be eating dinner and a dog at my feet, but once I go and finish this, I will still be online. I'll just be camera off dealing with them. Thanks to Chris and Jesse for arranging tonight, and welcome to those that are on the call. Additionally, those that are not on the call and will be watching this back on the recording. I suppose the part for me kind of links to obviously HP32 and the Win Well pledge, and I think we've all heard about it. It's been very publicised in the media about all the sports coming together on this. But I think the real crux of it is that the winning at all costs, it doesn't fly anymore. That's really what the Win Well pledge. It's on the screen there, and I'm not going to read through that, but that's what it really boils down to. Up until, well, whenever the definitive line in the sand was, which I can't recall when that was. That just didn't stand anymore from a system piece, and it definitely doesn't from a triathlon piece. I think the important part where you as coaches come into this is that the coaches, as we all know, are the coalface of our organisation, and world-class coaching, and that's throughout the system. That doesn't just mean it's our HP coaches, is an enabler to our success of the HP32 plus strategy. So hence the importance of being aware of what the NIF is, what it does, and what it does for you and for the athletes and our members. But but it's not just an athlete protection mechanism. It's also, it's there for all of us. So really understanding where this sits in the scheme of things is really important as coaches, as I said, as those on the coal face. So that's the link here tonight for us, Chris, from a HP point of view. I'm happy to take any questions, but I'm here for the ride.
Thanks,
so
Dan.
have you got anything, Chris?
Right, no, that was a great overview. We've opted with the subject being integrity to go mics off tonight, so there'll be no questions, Dan. So what I'll do is, if there are any questions at the end, I'll let people know how to get hold of me and I can forward to you. But no, appreciate that, and we'll let you get back to the dogs and the kids. My daughter has also just come home from daycare. I hope she won't come into the room. If she does, I apologize in advance. She's very cute and she won't be here for long. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but just in case. Right, thanks, Dan. So first thing we're going to start with today is a bit of a recap on Sport Integrity Australia, a brand new organisation that came into being in 2018. Obviously, COVID came, derailed a little bit of their progress and slowed them down, but they are very much ramping up their operations at the moment. To give an overview of who they are, how they came about, and what they do, I'm just going to present to you a very short video. Just going to check before I go any further. Dan, can you give me a nod? Can you hear that? All good. Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm James Wood, and I was the chair of the review committee that looked at sports integrity in 2017, 2018. My background was as a Supreme Court judge, and I was delighted to be asked to chair the review. But by and large, I thought that Australian sport was pretty good in terms of integrity, but I very quickly became aware from this review that there were threats on the horizon, and we had to have a strong response to it. And I did become concerned that there was a real threat coming from organised crime and from, I guess, substance abuse at an organised state level. The illegal offshore betting industry is enormous, and it's been very hard to detect people who are wanting to use sports betting or otherwise for money laundering or for financing drug supplies or otherwise. One of the very important things with sports integrity is maintaining the protection of individual participants, and we've all been concerned, I believe, or I'm sure we have all been concerned by the allegations which have arisen of bullying, discrimination, sexual assault, physical assault in a number of sports where the athletes are very much vulnerable so far as coaches and other people are concerned. It's a multifaceted threat to sports integrity that we have to face. Australia is known as a sporting nation. It's part of our ethos. And to lose a reputation for integrity would be absolutely devastating. One of the things which is absolutely critical for the review was that Australia have the ability to legislate and drive things, which meant they needed to have a national platform. The basic recommendation was the creation of a national sports integrity body as part of the national platform.
When we set out to create a national sports integrity agency, we looked around the world to see how other countries were responding to integrity threats. And from this, we tailored a response to suit Australia's needs. We knew the agency needed to build on partnerships. If we wanted to make a difference, we needed the help of government, anti-doping agencies, law enforcement and intelligence agencies, sporting organisations, media, teachers, educators, researchers, health regulators, and the list goes on. And when we identify a risk in sport, we work with the sport to address it. We work with sport to ensure their integrity frameworks are appropriate. More importantly, we work with sports to develop key education programs and products. Together, we build a stronger, fairer and safer sport. And when I think of partnerships, There's no one more important than our athletes. They're the ones we're trying to protect. Without athletes, there is no sport. One of the first things we did as an agency was establish an athlete advisory group. The role of this group continues to evolve, but their influence on Sport Integrity Australia and sport integrity generally is critical. As we opened the doors of Sport Integrity Australia in 2020, the world was confronted with the Athlete A documentary detailing abuse in US gymnastics. The impact was felt around the world and here in Australia. Sport and government were on notice. Change was on the way. The National Integrity Framework is a set of streamlined policies that set out what behaviours are acceptable and what behaviours have no place in sport, particularly when it comes to child safeguarding, member protection, competition manipulation, and the use of drugs and medicine. The National Integrity Framework ensures that all sports in Australia have consistent integrity policies.
The creation of a body like Sport Integrity Australia, I suppose, really alleviates those fears and it sets the standards for our national sporting organisations to have integrity policies that meet a certain standard. I think that's a huge step forward for Australian sport.
The Wood Review created a spotlight on Australian sport, which is crucial to create innovation, but also have a good look at how we can do things better in this country at all levels. It was really bringing together a holistic approach.
This system gives athletes the confidence to come forward, to speak up. Athletes are becoming confident their voices will be heard, that their voice will drive change. And what's heartened me the most is the trust placed in us by athletes in the early days of our development. Some have never come forward with stories of abuse or harm, coming forward to us for the very first time. To date, the response to Sport Integrity Australia has been overwhelming. When we started, we predicted approximately 60 cases a year. We've ended up with over 1,000. We referred over 66 matters to law enforcement, allowing them to deal with the criminal aspects, whilst taking match fixers and child sex offenders out of sport. Collectively, we've drawn the line on unacceptable behaviour in sport to make sport fair and safer for this generation and the next.
Having the opportunity where athletes, always had a voice, but, an opportunity then to actually talk about it and have recommendations was key.
The national framework from Sport Integrity Australia is really important, particularly for, if you like, minority sports or smaller sports that don't have the resources. And it just means that even at grassroots level, where literally tens of millions of Australians experience sport on a regular or semi-regular basis, they all can know that their rights are going to be upheld, and therefore we can all just get on with what it's really about, and that is just enjoying, the beauty of playing.
When an organisation is doing their role and providing that safe, fair and honest space, it means that you're not hearing about them because they're taking care of what's required. For me, that's really the role that Sport Integrity Australia plays.
It's so important, I think, for everyone involved in sport to find ways to connect the high performance, the superstars, the champions, with the young kids that are out there in the grassroots community. It's really important that they are the positive, inspiring role models that next generation need. It's about having the courage to pursue your dreams and the talent to make those dreams become a reality.
Sport is a massive industry and there are so many pathways around it. Being an athlete with a vision impairment has really taught me how to trust and how to be able to let go of fear and the control that perhaps we desire as individuals.
Sport matters now more than ever. Many of our kids are trading time, training or competing in sports for sitting at home in their bedroom, looking at a screen or playing on social media. Now, sport brings communities together. It's positive and it creates healthy bodies, healthy minds that reduce impact on the health system later in life.
Sport transcends, religion, culture, race, regions, countries, but if you look at sport, it's interwoven into our communities and our families. You can be anywhere in this country to have an opportunity to go to the Olympic Games or be the best, but it is about opportunities.
We have different religions, we come from different nations, we have different backgrounds, we eat different food, we have different languages, we have different life experiences, we're different ages and we're different genders, and we're different sexualities. Like everything is totally different. But we wear the same shirt, we cheer for the same players, and we experience sport in the same way, through joy and passion or pain and heartache. That's the real power of sport, is that it's a central safe zone that allows all of humanity to come together. You can genuinely be treated as equal.
Sport should be fun, and to me that means it's both a safe environment and a fair environment. The role that Sport Integrity Australia is playing now, is one of the first organisations in the world to have all the integrity functions under one roof. It's been fantastic, and I think it sets a real example for other countries around the world.
Sport is powerful, not just in an Australian context, but globally. Sport unifies and builds communities. Sport's at the heart of our culture. We need to protect it together.
Okay, great, thank you. And I understand there's some sensitive subjects discussed during that video. So if anyone would like some advice on some support organisations, please reach out to Jesse, and I can provide Jesse with some contacts. But I think that's a really great video at providing an overview of the Wood Review, which started the whole development of integrity, I guess, within sport across Australia. And obviously the centerpiece of the Wood Review recommendations being the formation of a single body to address sport integrity at a national level. And that is, of course, Sport Integrity Australia, based out of Canberra. Now, I work with Sport Integrity Australia on a daily basis across all the different functions that they have: competition manipulation, the anti-doping, safeguarding, complaints, member protection. They are a superb variety of subject matter experts from a whole, again, wide range of backgrounds. There's a lot of AFP and former police officers, immigration, lawyers, really top class subject matter experts who myself and other sports rely on heavily. And they are starting to really, as I say, really starting to motor in terms of what they're putting out there in the education space, in the support for sport space, and the training as well. So SIA's role is to protect Australian sport from use of prohibited substances and methods in sport, abuse of children and other people in the sporting environment, the manipulation of sporting competitions, and the failure to protect people in the sporting environment from bullying, abuse, intimidation, discrimination, and or harassment. And that's very much my role here at AusTriathlon. I guess I'm an extension of Sport Integrity Australia. And I am part of what we're calling the National Integrity Manager Network. There are currently 25 of us, 22 in sports, and 3 who have multiple. And what we are very much responsible for embedding a culture of integrity within our sports, supported heavily by Sport Integrity Australia. This was obviously referred to regularly during that video, and I imagine most of the people on this call will be across this. The National Integrity Framework. So this is our main response so far to integrity threats, and this was developed by Sport Integrity Australia with feedback from sports to make sure it was relevant for each specific sport. It is a suite of policies which effectively sets out rules for unacceptable behaviour in triathlon and how complaints about breaches of these rules are managed. So those 4 main policies are the Child and Young Person Safeguarding Policy, the Member Protection Policy, the Improper Use of Drugs and Medicines Policy, and the Competition Manipulation and Sports Wagering Policy. I'm going to say policy a lot this evening. I apologise in advance. What underpins these 4 policies is something called the Complaints, Disputes and Discipline Policy. And that is what is used if there are breaches in any of the 4 mentioned policies. There are 2 ways in which complaints can come forward. They are, excuse me 1 second. Sorry, I thought this might happen. Sorry about that. So complaints, dispute and discipline policy. So anything that is to do with a breach of the Child and Young Person Safeguarding Policy, or is abuse of protected characteristics, be that race or religion, etc. Those complaints go directly to Sport Integrity Australia via either a phone number, which I can provide at the end of this, or resources will be provided by Jesse at the end of this in a follow-up email, or there is a web form as well. For any other breaches of National Integrity Framework policies, those complaints can be made to me either via phone call or via email, and I work through the process to ensure that we are upholding integrity effectively. This is the graphic just to give a further overview of what's inside the 4 policies. So the child safeguarding one talks about the criminal behaviour, looks at child abuse, grooming, definitions behind that, misconduct of a child, supply of alcohol and medicines. It also talks about child safe practices. There's 13 of them. This covers as you can see, things like travel and overnight stay, how to use social media, how to communicate, photo, film and physical contact, etc. Also in the child safeguarding policy, which is extremely important, is how to report if you believe a child may be being subject to child abuse. There is clearly stated procedures that you work through. And there's also in the child safeguarding policy, if you are recruiting extra coaches within your organizations or volunteers, it provides guidance on how to do that as well safely. Competition manipulation and sports wagering policy, that covers off betting, bribes, insider information and improperly manipulated results. Improper use of drugs and medicine, that's about illegal drugs, unlawful use of prescriptions, unauthorized injections and the non-compliant supplements. And member protection, so this is about abuse, bullying, harassment, what the definitions are there, what's acceptable behavior, what's prohibited conduct, and the circle around the outside is that complaints, disputes and discipline policy, which goes that step further. So it's where obviously the policies say what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, but this is saying, okay, if you come across something that is not acceptable, which is a breach of this policy, this is how you action it, you do something about it effectively. Sport Integrity Australia, of course, as I was saying, have great resources available, which I really encourage you to go and have a look at. I'll pull out specific ones which I think will be of great use for coaches, and I'll forward them to Jesse. And of course, they are very big time players in the education space. They've got online e-courses. The main ones that will be sent out to you as we look at our Sport Integrity Australia education plan, which basically breaks down each cohort within our sport. So coaches, TOs, athletes, parents, and advises each section of our community which education we recommend that they have a look at. So that's a really good cover off of Sport Integrity Australia, who they are and why they exist, and how they help the sports. A little bit about our approach to embedding integrity here at AusTriathlon. So what I've figured out pretty quickly is lots of people have their own idea of a definition of integrity. It's a little bit of an ambiguous term, I guess. So we've worked with Sport Integrity Australia and Vic Uni to sort of come up with our own simple definition of integrity that everyone can unite behind. Sport Integrity Australia's definition is the manifestation of ethics and values that promote community confidence in sport, which is a wonderful definition. But obviously, for buy-in and for comprehension from far and wide, what we've done is we've broken it down to be as simple as safe and fair triathlon. So when we're talking about integrity, what we are effectively talking about is putting measures in place to ensure that triathlon remains safe and fair. Fairness being expressed in conditions that allow for all those who play sport to perform under equal conditions, where the outcome of the contest is unknown, and safe sporting environments prioritize the well-being of individuals involved in sport, creating competitive and social spaces where participants feel safe to train, compete, and socialize. So that's what we are doing as a sport. We are in this integrity space. Is we're on a mission to make sure that it stays safe and fair. Why are we doing this? Why is it so important? Why is integrity a buzzword far and wide within the sport environment across Australia? Effectively because it is it's protecting experiences, it's protecting the positive experience and the power of sport. So by protecting the integrity of sport, we're protecting the ability for sport to be the powerful force that it can be, the mental and physical well-being that it can be generated through sport participation, the friendships. Of course, I'm speaking to the converted tonight who are deeply devoted and love sport and understand all the power of sport, and that is why integrity is so important. Is we're setting out to protect that. Now, if there's any police on the line or former police, I apologize in advance. I'm going to do my best at trying to explain the theory behind integrity safeguarding. So that's not just the child and young person safeguarding, that's member protection policy, anti-doping, etc., etc. A lot of the measures, the integrity measures that get put in place to stop prohibited conduct and to really enforce conduct that is favorable is there is theory behind it. It's not just at random. It's not just oh, this is a good idea to put this in place, and I'm going to quickly do my best to explain it. So crime triangle theory, historically criminological theories focused on the offenders and not the event themselves. So if you think your kind of classic TV shows that are all over Channel 10 where they're profiling the offender, that's kind of what used to happen, I believe. Cohen and Felsen in '79, what they did is they created this theory called routine active theory, and instead of focusing so much on the offender, what they did is they started to focus more on the opportunity that existed for crime to be committed. They pretty much, in a nutshell, argued that crime occurs when a motivated offender finds a suitable target without capable guardians present. So off the back of routine active theory, crime triangle theory was developed, and that explores in greater detail this the factors contributing to criminal activity, suggesting that it compromises of three crucial components, being an offender, a target or a victim, and a place, so a location or an environment. The offender, so this is an individual or organization who engages in the prohibited conduct, unethical behavior, or the rule violation. So in triathlon, this could be anyone from administrator, spectator, athlete, coach, technical official, and so on. The target is the object or entity who is victimized by the offender. So in triathlon, this could be, it could be a specific person, or it could be one of our rules or policies. And the place is, of course, that environment where the crime occurs. So crime triangle theory suggests that crime prevention involves manipulating these elements to create an environment where criminal activity is less likely. And that is effectively what all of sport is trying to do. They're trying to look at their landscape through this triangle and understand who potential offenders are, who potential victims are, and places where prohibited conduct could occur, and putting measures in place to disrupt it as much as possible. Crime triangle theory also gave birth to something called situational crime prevention. So this complements crime triangle theory by looking further at the specific environmental aspects of where a crime occurs. So this tries to strategically address potential crime situations. 5 specific groups of situational crime prevention were developed in an attempt to disrupt the triangle even further. So this was increasing the effort to commit a crime or to commit a policy breach, increasing the risk if you are caught, reducing the rewards to even think about committing a breach in the first place, reducing provocations, and also removing excuses. So in triathlon, this means addressing elements like our race venues, social media, supervision throughout our entire ecosystem, the processes we have in place, and the policies. So I'll skip that and I'll just go straight to the summary. So again, so this is just trying to provide you a little bit of an insight in terms of the thought process that all sports are going through with Sport Integrity Australia, how they analyse their sport, so they get to the measures that they put in place to try and prevent policy breaches. So again, so we look at the offender, and what we try and do there is we're trying to reduce the motivation. So we're implementing measures to reduce motivation for rule breaking, such as background checks, appropriate training, clear policy acknowledgement and understanding, and also if we can find ways to reward ethical behavior. The target, effectively, this is known as target hardening. This is strengthening rules and regulations to discourage offenders, enforcing code of conduct and all our other policies, creating safe spaces for raising concerns, making sure that we are a sport which is our entire ecosystem feels safe speaking up, and educating individuals on how to stay safe within their environments. And then, of course, the location. This is the big one with situational crime prevention. It's looking at the guardianship. It's enhancing supervision by increasing responsible authority presence, ensuring they're trained and they recognize and address integrity-related threats. And then also how to elevate them as well. So again, that's either to myself, or if it's a matter involving under 18s or breach of rules against characteristics or protected characteristics, that's straight to Sport Integrity Australia. So why have I tried to give you a little bit of an overview there? And again, apologies if I've butchered that for any police on the line. It's pretty much used the world over by law enforcement, because we're developing something here at AusTriathlon called our Integrity Action Plan. And this is going to be how we set about embedding a culture of integrity throughout our entire ecosystem, how we are going to help our clubs, how we are going to help our coaches, our race directors, etc. So we've developed it or we are developing it in cooperation with Sport Integrity Australia and other key stakeholders. It is very much a strategic approach to reduce integrity threats. It's developed off the foundations provided by the NIF. So the NIF and the policies and the conduct disciplinary policy very much gave us that foundation, but it is at the moment very much a foundation and needs bringing to life. So we're at that stage of developing it now as we move into the second phase. And it is very much centered around 4 main areas, being controls, attitudes and awareness, roles and responsibilities, and education and training. And as I go through this, I'll try and make it specific to coaches so we understand the angle we're coming from for that cohort. So controls is establishing the rules and implementing the procedures. So this is establish the rules that govern our ecosystem and implement the procedures required for compliance with these rules. So this is review existing and creation of new policies. We have actually just, I should have mentioned this, we actually reviewed our NIF policies recently. All sports did. It will happen every 18 months. That was agreed in December at a board meeting. There were very few changes of note, mainly around definition, but all members will be updated of that in the coming weeks. Also, with control objectives is review existing and create new integrity compliance procedures. So that's around how maybe you on board, looking at the child safe practices if you work with under 18s that we've talked about, and a few procedures like that. And also how we how we bind people to policy. So the agreements that happen, whether it's coach agreements at the start of the year, making sure that we bring those a bit more to life so you're aware of what they mean as opposed to just ticking a box. So that's the control piece. The attitudes and awareness is going to be our attempt to elevate integrity as a priority. I will mention again at the end, as I touched on at the start, integrity fatigue and integrity resistance. We understand that whether you are a volunteer or this is your full-time job, the increase focus on integrity does lead to potential extra workload and extra decisions that need to be made, and you already have a lot on your plate before we start considering new procedures or slight changes to what you're doing. So how do we elevate integrity as a priority is really key, knowing that you're already extremely busy with what you're doing in terms of trying to develop athletes. So this really is a key piece. I talk a little bit about how we sometimes need to view integrity as a product, and how we sell integrity, and this is effectively the attitudes and awareness piece. The objectives here are increasing the visibility and understanding of integrity, demonstrating the importance of it. So it goes a little bit back to the start and that power of sport and how integrity really underpins the experiences that everyone has in sport, and how we need to create a sport where we want people to be able to have those experiences, those positive experiences, for as long as they want to stay in the sport. And we need to disrupt and challenge behaviors that disregard integrity and importance. We need to have, there will be difficult conversations that need to be had as we work through embedding this. Yeah, we're fully aware and eyes wide open that they'll need to be had. The third of the 4 focus areas is roles and responsibilities. So that's advising of the integrity, responsibilities and roles. And again, I think that comes a little bit back to bringing the policies to life. I'm fully aware the policies are not the easiest documents to read, and that is very much Sport Integrity Australia, and all the sports are aware of that and understand that we've got to do a really good job at bringing to life the policies, what they mean, what's in it in terms of what needs to be happening, what cannot be happening, and as part of that, we then help people understand, okay, what are your roles and responsibilities as a club president, as a race director, or in this case, as a coach, in ensuring integrity remains within triathlon. So part of this is going to be creating new integrity roles. Part of it is increasing the understanding of how each member of our ecosystem can keep triathlon safe and fair. And there's also the distribution of integrity ownership throughout our staff network as well. So I'm working a lot with Jessie at the moment. Jessie's been fantastic in understanding where this links in with coaching, around education, training, and providing resources. And also down at the start, we're doing a lot of space in that high performance space for athletes, for coaches, for parents as well. So it's important that integrity is not just looked on as we have a national integrity manager. They are responsible for the whole delivery of it. Very much responsible for the strategy and the support behind it, but everyone's going to play their part, and painting the picture of the part that you play is very much going to decide how successful we are as a sport and embedding this culture of integrity. And the fourth one is pretty obvious one, but it's education and training. So as I said, we have subject matter experts at Sport Integrity Australia. So they will be leading a lot of the training around the policies and the National Integrity Framework. They're doing a whole webinar series at the moment on child safeguarding. Again, I'll provide all the sign up registration to Jesse to circulate, and the ones that have previously already occurred, they've been recorded. They cover off a lot of the child safe practices, but they are not all related to under 18 coaching. It's also, you know, respectful behaviors around how you coach within the rules of our policies. So very much lean on the subject matter experts at Sport Integrity Australia to provide that specific education. We will also look at rolling out an education plan. Of course, coaches already do lots of education as you re-accreditate and you initially go through the process of becoming a coach. Jesse and I are looking at the moment in terms of the education you're asked to do, and when's most appropriate to redo it as policies get updated, without, as I've said several times, without putting too much expectation and burden on our kind of partner workforce and coach workforce as well, in terms of understanding that you have other jobs potentially and time sensitive. So that is very much in our minds in terms of how we embed this with an understanding of our membership base, the volunteer nature of it, as well as a firm understanding that there's lots of other priorities that exist out there. And then the last thing I will come to, I've gone over slightly, sorry, I really don't want to keep for too long tonight. I did just want to provide an overview of where we're up to and where we're going. It's just, again, to really touch on this resistance and fatigue and understand that we are fully aware that integrity resistance exists out there. We need to do an incredible job at explaining the value behind it, and as well the importance behind it. Of course, there is legislation in place that means certain things have to be adhered to, but we very much understand, as again going back to what I talked about, is seeing potentially integrity as a product and what we can do to sell it, to ensure that it becomes a culture and not just compliance. We're very wary of that we don't just want people working through education just to tick a box. We want them to be working through education to upskill their knowledge and their capabilities. And the other one is integrity fatigue as well. It can be a challenging subject. It can be overwhelming. And yeah, we're fully aware of this, and we're taking this into consideration as well about how we're going to go and set about embedding integrity as a culture. I really just want to flag those tonight. I don't want people thinking that, you know, we are not aware and that we're just going to dump all this extra stuff on you. We're having a very calculated, strategic approach to how we embed integrity and keep everyone within our sport safe and ensure that our sport remains fair as well. So thank you all for taking time on a Wednesday evening to dial in and listen to me. Thanks for Jesse for setting up and for Dan at the start. I will provide my email, and then Jesse will circulate that, and please come forward with any questions. The reason we've gone with no questions and no microphones tonight is sometimes when I do these sessions, scenarios can come up. People like to use examples, and obviously we have confidentiality is extremely important in this space. So that is the reason behind that. However, I do invite questions or comments, so please feel free to get in touch. I hope you have a really solid understanding now of who Sport Integrity Australia are, what integrity is, what we're trying to do, and how we're starting to formulate a plan to ensure that, yeah, triathlon stays safe and fair. Thank you again, and I'll throw back to Jesse.
Thanks, Chris. That was a very comprehensive presentation of everything. Coaches, you're probably feeling a little bit overwhelmed, going that was a lot of information. Just know you're not expected to know all of it all at once. We will be sending out tomorrow all of the links to all of the key information, those 4 key policies on safeguarding, competition manipulation, improper use of drugs, and member protection. There'll be live links to all of those policies. We'll also put in the WinWorld 2032 information. It's great that Daniel Mangano is here to tell us how our high performance unit is really getting on board with the integrity ethos, and that winning at all costs is just it just doesn't fly. So thank you everybody for coming in, and look out in your emails in the next 24 hours for all of this information and a recording of this video. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks all. Thank you.
Thanks all.